First day out, we go to Damme, lovely little town. 2 sketches I did that day. I ended up having everybody in the workshop from the first week sign that sketch. On to the City of Bruges. Oh, love this city, beautiful. This is a demo that I did in the morning. Loved the light. Really nice little view looking down. This is what I did in the afternoon. 2 different kinds of feels of architecture and light. On to the little coastal town called Haan. Gray day, little crabs, just looking at different skies, mixing color, how to create grays. Into the city area of Haan, architecture that was very prominent in that area. Lots of greens. Love this windmill in Damme. I think I had more fun doing this. Big shapes, billowing skies. It's really a super pleasant day. Walking up inside of the windmill and seeing all the gears and watching it move. Bruges, doing the sketch collage. The lace maker with her thread is in here. Different emblems of Bruges. I happened to be there during a really bad heat wave. So the hats are kind of a symbol of going and buying a hat. Little protection from all of the heat. The horses with the carriages that went all around the city. This is where we stayed during the workshop. My memories, the different people that were in that group. I did teach 2 workshops, so total of 25 students during that time. Back to Damme. I was sitting with my back against their little church. In fact, it's not so little, but it was a windbreak from a very cold breeze that was coming through the city at that time. So my back against the church, painting the really white buildings. I was surprised how many white buildings. The stork, the sheep that were all in the country and around the church. A line is a dot that went for a walk. I'm always trying to show how I use continual line contour, attempting to leave my pen on the paper as long as possible, lifting when I need to, but this happened to be sitting in the same place, but it was just off to the side that I saw this. So 2 demos that afternoon. Back into the City of Bruges, looking over the canal and a wall into this church. I finished my demo and wasn't but 10 minutes later, the wind caught my palette, almost put it into the canal. It's really lucky that it didn't crack it. So I was writing about the wind that caught my palette and another drawing. Often I like to draw my lunch, a little bit of quiet time during the day, and the shop owners, I had them sign it for me. In Bruges, the architecture, you just can't deny it's a treasure. So much has been preserved and undamaged during World War II. Street signs, very different. So I thought I would record them along with a little scooter. 2 young teenagers from Utah were visiting with me, so before they left, I just had them sign my sketches, part of my memory. Back to Haan. That day we practiced skies, how to create a different feeling. This was like the day at the windmill. This was very much the ocean, how the white was down near the horizon and wispy. And then what it would look like with a storm, an impending storm coming in. The little crab, the seashells. It was plenty hot by this point, so the tourists were out everywhere, so added a few of them. Boy, this day, I was so glad that the demo worked. I had 3 weed whackers that showed up when I started to draw. I was probably bit by bugs 3 or 4 times. You know, the joys of plein air painting. You never know what's going to happen, but I was glad I pulled it off. I didn't bail, but I'll never forget that day. So, not the easiest demo. Day that I traveled home, not enough time scheduled between my flights. Wasn't able to make my flight. Airline put me in a hotel overnight, and then back first thing in the morning. Had a very relaxed and peaceful breakfast at the airport. And, you know, travel is stressful. Having a full belly always makes it better. This is just reflections when I was on my teaching techniques and things to think about in the future. Personal notes to myself. And then the earlier sketchbook I told you about, this one. This happens to be the book that I used when I arrived about 4 days before the workshop. I used this time as a way to get acclimated to the time change, become familiar with the architecture in the region. That isn't something I want to do during the workshop, so I arrive early. Here was outside my hotel, over at the Grand Plaza. Absolutely amazing architecture. Didn't know how I'd capture it all, so I just decided to go for the very tops of the buildings. Good way to solve the problem. Memories and sketches on one page. This cathedral, I decided to sketch the back. The front of it really didn't interest me very much, and I love the intricate details to the back of the building. Inside, as with most cathedrals, a lot of sculptures and saints. My husband's name is Michael, so I didn't want to miss that opportunity to sketch this one. More architecture in the city, and the final sketch I did in Brussels before I left. This area was just very unique. Center of the town, museums to my right, public gardens to my left. Just really seemed to be a fine sketch to end with before I went on to teach my workshop. So as I was talking about my supplies, bring those back in. The sketchbooks that I used, the 2 sizes happen to be the Stillman and Burn with the beta surface. It doesn't take a ton of brushes. These were the only brushes I used during the trip. So mainly, flats. These are Da Vinci brushes. Oh wait, this one's a rosemary, excuse me. This is Da Vinci. It's worn off here. Also, I have an Escoda that I've been enjoying using also. I also keep 2 brushes that I use for scrubbing and lifting. So I keep those here instead of ruining a good brush by scrubbing. 2 mechanical pencils. One has a very large lead, as you can see, and one has a very fine. I believe this was a Stadler, and not even sure of the name of this pencil. Small lead on this, much larger lead here. 1 eraser, it's about all you need, and especially since you've seen that most of the time I just work in pen, so I don't use pencils that much. The pens that I use, now this is a whole different ball game. I do love nice fountain pens. I prefer to draw in pen. When I sketch, very rarely will I work in pencil. Why? I just find my line quality is much better. So this one happens to be a Monte Grappa. I guess you'd call the model is the Mija, is M-I-J-A. The nib here is a medium. As you can see, there's ink in it, writing on my skin. So lovely nib. It's a heavier pen than some people like, but I love it. This one also happens to be a Mont Blanc. It's a big pen, I know it. Some people really don't like big pens. I do. This is a stub. I love nice, strong, solid lines. This one happens to be a Pilot Vanishing Tip. This is a wonderful, wonderful, super reliable fountain pen. Can't say enough nice things. Great price point. This is probably my most expensive. This is my mid-range, but kind of a small, medium, and very large nibs. 3 different sizes. This is the palette that I use. It's big in some people's minds, but it's the size that I like. The colors that I use, if you want to know more about my colors, I use Daniel Smith paint. You can read more about this on my blog. I happen to have a lavender on this side that I've added and a buff titanium. I am using this more in my skies than anywhere else. And I modified the palette by adding 3 wells on the bottom. Just isn't a good area to build nice big puddles of color. So this is basically all that I need. One last point I know of interest to many people is what kind of ink do I use. The brand I use my pen is the Diatramentus Document Ink. I prefer the brown. I don't happen to have the bottle with the brown in it anymore. Before I left on the trip, I poured it into this plastic bottle and I threw the brown bottle away. So the Diatramentus Document Ink brown is my favorite. And that's about it. Hope you enjoyed having a sketchbook tour. And hope you're enjoying the summer and getting out and doing a little sketching on your own. Thanks for watching.